Hi everyone, welcome back to Rich's Garage. Hope everybody's having a great 4th of July weekend. It's Sunday, July 5th. So as you can see, I have still no primer, but I made a lot of progress on Friday when I came home from a business trip. Excuse me. So on the last video I had a question regarding the back cross member here and the positioning of the brake actuators and the brake cylinders on the rear housings. So I want to thank Mark's work, who's building that 1/16 scale W900, and Chris at 45 Productions, who's building a P377, for chiming in. But the ultimate answer to my question came from Google. So while I was traveling, I just Googled Peterbilt 359 brake cylinder location, and lo and behold, on the images, two came up that were really helpful. They all face forward, and really they don't touch the housing. So that was the thing that I was confused about. I was trying to get this actuator actually touching the housing, and it doesn't. So if I put it here, see if we can get a good shot here. So you see it's glued to I guess this piece here that I show, kind of like a bracket, and then just goes in to actuate, and then that gets the right orientation. You know, it's kind of almost in line with the pinion, give or take a little bit. But so that was the answer to that question. So I was able to get both these housings together, put the backing plates on, and get that all ready to go. Friday would have been a great day to prime and then paint today, is what I was hoping. But you know, just the cleanup, I kind of, you know, when you're sanding, your mind kind of wanders a little bit, and I'm like, hey, so there's over 250 pieces in the kit. I'm probably averaging at least 10 minutes apart to get it prepped. So that's 2,500 minutes divided by 60 minutes in an hour. It comes out to almost 42 hours. So if I spend an hour a day, that's 42 days on a roughly 62 day build. So so that's where I'm at. So I'm chugging along. I'm hoping that I don't fall too far behind. But so what I decided to do was mount as many pieces to the frame and then prime it. You know, just but if something was going to get in the way of being able to get spray in there, then I left it off. But I figured that's going to be my best approach. So if we take a look at the frame, we'll start at the back. Remember, this was one of my questions in the back, and it turns out, I'm just going to get this out of the way here, that we were going to center this up in the back, which it is now. I got the airbags and they're mounting in place. The airbags, it was a fair amount of cleanup. You had to kind of clean back out to define the bags themselves. What I wanted to do was not glue that in and then come in and paint the bags, but I think I'm going to be able to come in with a small brush after the fact and get all the way around to paint that a flat black for, you know, a rubber color. The air tanks, these were a mess, to be honest with you. They're so a lot of sanding, filler, sanding some more. We'll see how they come out after I hit them with primer. One thing I want to point out is so I made a mistake on this center cross member. If you remember from the last video, I said I kind of opened up the pieces because it wasn't allowing me to put it perpendicular to the frame rails. So I opened up how the part's keyed. Well, evidently I flipped it around. So not realizing, what's it get in here? The light's not so good today. Let's see here. There we go. On this piece is supposed to be forward, and on this other side, this, for lack of a better term, angle goes all the way across. So what I wound up doing was cutting out the piece so I can put the the bracket that holds this carrier bearing facing forward. So if you're doing this model, just be aware of that. Then this brace I didn't glue in. I just kind of let it straddle there. It's supposed to be for the back of the cab. But it's kind of interesting, I guess, the way this goes together. So from the instructions, these slots marry up to the interior bucket. So this is going to go something like this. Right. But this is narrower than the cab itself. What ties this all together is the firewall. So I haven't cleaned this up or anything. The firewall is supposed to go in like this, right? So something like that, and then the firewall, I have to tape this, I guess, to try and fit it all, is going to fit in here, and that's going to be the solid portion. So I got to do a lot of taping to juggle this around and fit this. But when I was playing around with it, I wasn't sure if this bracket was going to be ending up outside of the cab or not. So I left it loose so I can manipulate it after I prime this. And then if I have to go in, after I prime and paint it and do a little touch up, I'll do that. I'm also going to prime the bucket because I'm going to hand paint probably the interior of this. They have the... So we're having a little tough time with lighting today, but let's see here. You see the hand crank, hopefully, and the interior door panel. So I'm going to paint that by hand. The battery box and cover was another interesting fitment. In here, I had to. There's a rivet that was right underneath where this bracket goes. I had to cut the rivet, sand that smooth. Fitting the barrier box, this side was actually thicker, so I sanded this all down to marry up and be flush with the cover. And I just glued it in place. I didn't paint the batteries inside. I'm not having it that you can open it. Here's the steering box, the front axle, tie rod. This piece in here is also, I left a little bit loose, so I have a little bit of play in it. I'm not sure if I'm going to need it for the tilting of the cab. I haven't quite figured that part out yet. It wasn't clear to me from flipping through the instructions. So as pieces go on, then I'll figure out what's going on with that. That's one of the reasons why I left this back brace loose. So I have the rear hubs cleaned up, drive shafts cleaned up, front hubs cleaned up, so all this is going to get painted frame color. The idler arm for the steering, which goes in here. Once I put the pitman arm on, I got to paint that. The shocks. These shocks are a bit of a mess. They're too thick. The diameter of the shock interferes with the airbag when you put it in. Not all of them, just a couple of them, so I had to sand them to get them to fit. But I think it's all going to work out now. So the only thing I'm waiting for right now is there's an auxiliary air tank that sits on here that's chrome, so I'm dechroming that right now. I think I'd make this video while I'm waiting for that. I missed it when I was flipping through seeing what I wanted to dechrome. So I'll put that in place, glue it, and then today I'm going to prime this, guaranteed. The weather's right for it, so I'm going to prime this, all this. Also the engine is waiting to be primed, so I have some sample spoons that I want to prime because I haven't 100% decided what color I'm going to paint this yet. I have a couple of ideas, but I want to see what they look like first, so I'm going to do that. The other thing I'm going to try is I have this is some of the deck plates, and I'm going to paint this, I'm going to spray this with a matte clear. I'm kind of curious to see how it looks, because I may wind up doing that on the wheels to tone them down a little bit. I think I'm going to have to dechrome the grill and that type of stuff. So I mean, I'd have to come in and clean these up anyway. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to spray them, and I'll show you that, see what they look like once they dry. So that's where I'm at. Next time you'll definitely see this in primer. Like I said, it's the front half of the instructions is pretty much done, except for putting together the actual wheels, assemblies, and tires. I want to see if I'll paint this, and if it tones it down enough, and I take a close look at the wheels and they look clean enough, then I won't strip them. I'll just paint them to tone them down a little bit. The only thing then I have is the fuel tanks that I have to paint. I have to put them together. There's a fair amount to clean up there to get them together, and I'll paint them separately. So yes, that's where we are. Like I said, I hope everybody's enjoying their 4th, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.